Hey everybody, it's Blue. Me and my fellow Games Only podcast hosts have kind of talked about doing supplemental type shows to kind of give you guys some more content. And I kind of figured I would go first since I missed the podcast number 120 last night. So I wanted to talk about something that we haven't really touched on at all. We did our Games of the Year and all that good stuff at the end of the year last year. But we didn't do stuff that we're looking forward to, so I thought that would be kind of a cool thing to touch on. I actually printed some stuff off from work, and I have about 1,000,000 chicken scratch notes, so you'll have to forgive me if I'm a little bit scatterbrained about it. Pretty much, my number one thing that I'm looking forward to is going to be The Evil Within. It's by the guy that originally did the Resident Evil series. I think he was in charge of 1 through 4. So this looks like a really good opportunity to see where the series kind of would have gone if he had stayed in charge of it. And it has a potential to kind of start a new franchise. I think starting off fresh is a really good idea. As much as I love the Resident Evil series, I feel like it's kind of been beaten to death a little bit. It just kind of really got off track, and so I think this is going to be a really good opportunity to get a fresh start. And it actually looks a lot like Resident Evil 4 to me as far as gameplay goes. But it's going to be another survival horror type game where I believe you're playing as this detective or some kind of investigator, and you just kind of start falling into these horrible traps, and not real sure what else the plot is going to have on it, but it looks like there'll be some stealth elements. Kind of has a little bit of a Silent Hill feel, because one of the trailers actually showed how the road had been completely knocked out, and that's traditionally a very Silent Hill sort of thing. So I'm really looking forward to seeing a little bit more on that. Yeah, I kind of have almost all of my eggs in that one basket, which is kind of sad because it's actually not street dated yet. It still says early April this year it was supposed to come out, but I'm kind of skeptical because it's not street dated. So I'm trying to be patient on that one. Dying Light is one that actually is street dated, and it comes out April 1st this year. A little bit skeptical about it, even though I love zombies. They've kind of been played to death. And this one is a first-person type game, kind of like Dead Island, and I'm kind of afraid it'll be a little bit too much like Dead Island. Even though it was a fun enough game to play, it had a lot of problems, and I'm not usually a first-person fan. So, but it seems like it's going to kind of expand on what Dead Island started to do as far as the weapon customization and the survival type stuff. And a really cool pre-order bonus is that you actually get to play as a zombie and kind of customize them. So that sounds really cool, and by the time April hits, I'm going to be kind of desperate to have something to play on my Xbox One. So this will probably be something that I pick up day one, especially if I know 2 or 3 people who are going to be able to play it with me. That'll make a big difference to me. Mad Max looks really cool. I think it's kind of interesting that they've picked up on a movie that has been out for such a long time. I think it's got a really cool feel to it. Graphically, it looks really beautiful. I'm always into kind of post-apocalyptic type environments anyway, and the fact that it's not zombies is kind of refreshing in a way. So I think that's something that I'll be willing to check out. Not really sure if I'm willing to spend the $60 on it just yet, but it's something that's kind of stewing in the back of my head. Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare. This is kind of a play on the Call of Duty series. I don't know if you'll remember when they announced it at E3 last year, but they kind of had the little teaser thing that made it look like they were going to announce another Call of Duty Modern Warfare. But it's a shooter game with the plants versus the zombies. So as much as I loved the original, taking away that kind of tactical, like, tower defense aspect of it just kind of turns it into like a kid's version of Call of Duty. So I want to say that I'll be picking up when it comes out just for the fact that I know a bunch of people who will be playing it, but I just don't know if I want to drop the money on it just yet. The trailers look really cute, it looks really fun, but I'm just not completely sold on it, I guess. So, there's that. I'm kind of elbow deep in Assassin's Creed 4 right now, completely obsessed with it. It's really embarrassing how much I love it versus how much I have originally refused to play it. So, that being said, I now have a renewed interest in Watch Dogs. It was a very mild interest up until recently, but now that I'm completely on board with Assassin's Creed 4, I'm really interested to play this game, because to me it looks like kind of a present-day Assassin's Creed. A little bit of a different take on it, of course, but the being able to control everything from, like, your phone seems very realistic to me. It seems like something that is plausible. And I believe it takes place in Chicago, right? I really like Chicago, so that's going to be really cool to, like, see some of the iconic places that are potentially going to be in it. So that's another thing. What to talk about next? Something that I'm kind of disappointed isn't going to be on next gen, like Xbox One and PlayStation 4, is Murdered Soul Suspect. The trailers for this look absolutely incredible. I think that they could port this over to next gen, and I think they could pull it off. But yeah, you're playing as, like, a detective. In the trailers that I've seen that they've been playing at work, you see him approach a man that's on the ground, like, kind of hovering over a body, and he's like, "Hey man, what are you doing?" And he's trying to get his attention, and he's, not listening to him, and so he starts yelling, and he's like, "Hey, get away from the body!" And the guy kind of moves back a little bit, and he sees the body as himself, and he suddenly has this little flashback that I'm assuming happened just a few minutes ago of him, like, pulling a gun and falling backwards out of a window. So that's kind of how they set you up for this game, that you're playing as this guy after he's dead, and he is, I guess, kind of a spirit, and trying to solve his own murder, which is such a really interesting take on it. It's not like anything I don't think I've ever heard of before. So I'm really interested in playing that. I don't know when it takes place exactly. The way the main character is dressed kind of looks kind of like LA Noire a little bit, but I don't know if he's just dressing like that because it's trendy or if that's actually the time it takes place. His gun looks a little bit more modern than that, so I guess I should have researched that before I started talking about it. Regardless, it looks really cool, and I wish it was going to be next gen, and I hope that they announce a port of it, at least. But if not, I'm still going to pick it up. This is definitely a day one purchase for me. Let's see. Quantum Break. That's another one of these that they're going to have the TV show coincide with the game. So the choices that I guess everyone universally makes in the game will affect the way the TV show goes. Not sold on it completely yet. It seems kind of campy. It's a cool idea, but it didn't really work out too well with Defiance. At the time, everyone was like, yeah, this is really cool, and then it just kind of dropped off. So, I'm gonna need to see a little bit more about that before I get too excited. I don't think it's dated yet, so it might not even be 2014 when that comes out. But I'm really into Alan Wake, and I think it has at least one of the developers behind Alan Wake doing this. So that right there gives me another reason to kind of pay attention to it. But it looks really beautiful too. Graphically, it looks really good. Some of these they've barely been announced, but I wanted to kind of mention them in case maybe some people may have missed them. Just recently, they've announced some of the kind of concept art type stuff for the new Mass Effect, which I was kind of satisfied with 3, even though the ending felt kind of anticlimactic compared to how much time we had spent and how much we had invested in the series. But on a large scale, it seemed like it was justified, kind of a good way to end the Shepard story. And I really didn't anticipate another one. I don't know if I was just being blind to it, but it really surprised me to hear that they were making another Mass Effect. I don't know how I feel about playing it without having my old friends on there. I mean, you get so attached to your comrades and stuff, and they do that to you on purpose, so I don't know what even time period it's going to be in, but if it's in any kind of realm of when Shepard was alive, I hope to at least in passing see some of the characters that I met along the journey through Mass Effect 1 through 3. So that's something that definitely interested in. In the same vein, something that's a little bit further along in production that will hopefully come out this year, Dragon Age Inquisition. I'm actually a bigger fan of Dragon Age than I am Mass Effect. I know, that's horrible, but it's the truth. I just got more emotionally involved, I think, in Dragon Age, and I played that before I played Mass Effect, so maybe that's part of it. But the armor customization and the different classes coming back that you can choose to play as, you don't have to just play as a human. I probably will still, but just to have that option there and just all the different possibilities of being able to customize the way you want to play, I think is really cool. And they kind of mentioned it being true open world, but from what I've seen, it doesn't look like it's quite on the scale of Skyrim exactly, which is great for me, because Skyrim, I think the main reason I couldn't get into that was because it was just too big and there was too much to do and it felt kind of directionless. So if they can kind of have a happy medium between the first Dragon Age and Skyrim as far as exploration goes, I think it'll be perfect. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how my decisions in the previous titles will affect this one. And I definitely want to see some of the people that I really got attached to in the older ones. So fingers crossed that they deliver on that, because I think myself, along with a lot of other people, were expecting a lot more out of Dragon Age 2. I didn't hate Dragon Age 2 by any respect at all, but compared to the first one, it was really disappointing. So let's see what else I have on here. I did want to mention The Walking Dead. The Telltale Games, The Walking Dead, Season 2 has already started. I have not played that first chapter that they've released. I'm assuming they'll do at least 5 chapters, and it will probably take through at least December to get through all of them. So I'm kind of hesitant to start it up, because they like to end each chapter on a cliffhanger, or some emotional turmoil that goes unsolved. But I am really curious to see how that plays out, because you play as Clementine now, whereas in the first season you actually played to protect her. Now you're playing as her, and you're kind of deciding how you want her to survive and what kind of person you want her to grow up to be. And I think that's really cool. That's a really unique concept that I haven't seen before. Blah blah blah. I told you I had way too many notes. Daylight, don't really know a whole lot about that, except that it's a horror game, and it looks like it has some kind of Outlast, kind of Silent Hill Shattered Memories kind of feel to it, just because you're using the phone and as like a camera to see the enemies and things. From what I can see, that's what it looks like. Anything that's going to be intense and scary, I'm into it. So, something else that just recently got announced, Evolve. It's by the same people who did Left 4 Dead, and I'm a huge Left 4 Dead fan, so I'm looking forward to seeing a little bit more about that. It actually has a pretty good spread in Game Informer this month, for those of you who are subscribed to that. Haven't read up on all of it yet, but I looked at all the concept art and things, and it looks really cool. If it plays like Left 4 Dead, I think I'll be into it. Not really excited about aliens. From what I can tell, it's aliens that you'll be fighting. Like big, gruesome creatures and stuff never really has done it for me, so I'll just have to wait and see a little bit on that. And I don't think it has a date yet. Yeah, it says, on this paper it says 12/31. So that means it doesn't have a date yet for us, so. Mildly interested in Wolfenstein. I think that's probably going to be 2015 though, so I won't really touch on that a whole lot. But the trailers that are out look really cool. Let's see, I know I had some other stuff on some other pages here. Oh! Fable Anniversary comes out on the 14th of February. I love the Fable series. Love it, love it, love it. And this is a game that I played immediately, right when it came out. I played it all the way through, back to back, twice, and then never again. I'm just really weird like that. I get completely obsessed with something, and I'll just play it to death and burn myself out on it, and then I won't touch it again. Fable 2 was actually my favorite of the series, so I think it'll be really interesting to go back and see this game that I haven't played for probably 10 years. So, kind of going back in time there compared to Fable 2. So it'll be really cool to see how they've revamped everything. I've seen some of the screenshots, the before and after, and how some of the menus have changed, and it'll be cool to see all the older characters and things that I may have forgotten about. But I am disappointed that it's not on the Xbox One. I think that would have been a really cool title to kind of kick the Xbox One stuff into motion and potentially set up for making a Fable 4 or whatever in the future. But it's kind of a good way to kind of send off the Xbox 360 as well. So I'll be definitely sinking a lot of time into that, which is a good way to kind of pass the time until April, which is really the next time anything's coming out for me. So, what else do I have here? Oh, The Sims 4 for the PC, of course. I was disappointed in The Sims 3. They took away a lot of the customization items, and they took away a lot of the old feel from the original two games that made it what it was. So I'm really hoping that they kind of go back to their roots on this one, and I hope they listened to the fans and implemented some of the stuff that we want. Something that I wish that they would let us do is like facial recognition when you're creating your Sims. I think it'd be really cool to have like a web camera set up where it will scan your features and kind of automatically put them into the game, kind of like the Kinect does with certain titles. Or maybe even just have a photograph and load that to where it'll kind of automatically fill in the features, so you're not like trying to tweak the nose and, you know, pulling the eyes around and stuff. I think it would just be really cool to have that option instead of trying to create everybody that you know and put them in the game and they all end up kind of looking the same. So I hope that they have changed that a little bit. What else do we have? Oh, Yoshi's New Island on the 3DS. I'm a believer in the Yoshi stuff. You best believe. I love me some Yoshi. And it actually looks a lot like Kirby's Epic Yarn. So if it plays anything like that, I'm gonna love it. Which, that was a game that I didn't really think anything of when it first came out, but once I started playing it, especially with HP, when he came to visit, that ended up being one of my most favorite games on the Wii, so I'm really hoping Yoshi's New Island is as good as the original Yoshi's Island. Fingers crossed. Another thing for the 3DS that I wanted to mention in closing here, Bravely Default. Initially I didn't think a whole lot of it, but upon downloading the demo, I now have a renewed interest in it. That one comes out on the 7th of February, but it's got a classic RPG feel to it, kind of like the old turn-based style RPG games, which I really miss. I really loved those, where you sit there and you plan out what everybody's gonna do, and then they go and do it, instead of just button mashing everybody really fast to try to get control of the situation. The only thing that I think will throw me off a little bit on it is the character models. They look like little babies. I've never liked that art style where it looks like you're playing as little kids. It really turns me off of it. But GameStop and Best Buy are the only places that are getting the limited edition, which comes with like 40 plus AR cards and a crap ton of other stuff like the soundtrack and maybe like an art book or something. So I'm a sucker for stuff like that, so I will probably end up getting the collector's edition of this, even though I'm not 100% sold on it. I'm just hoping that the gameplay and the story and all of that will add enough to it to where I'm not thrown off by playing as baby people. So I think that's it. If you have anything to add, I guess leave them in the comments, or you can tweet me at @TheBlueHex on Twitter. And make sure you follow the Games Only podcast. We are on Twitter and Facebook and all that good stuff. And I'll be hopefully on the show next week, and I will talk to you later. Bye.